the kind of learning that is going on in this program, CIDE, is very related to what is going to be on the ground when I'm going to do practice.
I really enjoy being around people who are not only academics and they're successful in their research, but also they're practitioners. They're people who've traveled all around the world. They've been involved as policy analysts, as advisors and consultants.
The students really impressed me with the life experiences, with the international experiences that they bring to our program. I am very impressed by my colleagues, which is very exciting for me to come to a place where my colleagues are doing work that makes a difference all around the world.
We combine all the basic elements in the field. Many programs emphasize just primarily development, and that's extremely important, but they don't have the international education, they don't have the intercultural component, and I think what is unusual about our program is we have strong international education, we have strong intercultural education, we have strong international development.
We've had some unique origins, and I think it also plays into how we continue to shape and reshape the program for our current students as we go into this decade. So it started 35 years ago with a number of faculty here. They very strongly felt that we should have, that if we are working even in international development, people should have specific country and context knowledge and intercultural experience. So it was actually designed as a program that would be really, its origins were much more comparative, trying to understand different comparative education systems and how we could learn from other education systems. So there was a real strong comparative element, and there was also a very strong intercultural education element. In the early years, both in the master's and the PhD, students took courses across those areas. In more recent time now, we've actually divided those as two different strands within the CIDE program. So our students come and say, okay, I've come out of background of working in development practice with NGOs or with international organizations, and that's kind of the work I want to do. So I'm more interested in the international development piece. Others who say I'm much more interested in some of the intercultural pieces, working with intercultural training in schools or in non-formal training environments, etc. And so we really try to have our faculty have expertise in those two areas, and we try to have courses that deepen the expertise in those two areas, while at the same time encouraging students to really take courses across both comparative education, in development, and intercultural.
It's an interdisciplinary program that, at least for me personally, took my interest not only in intercultural understanding, but also education and policy, and I'm able to combine them all together in research projects.
The multidisciplinary nature of this program helps you actually explore through various topics from political science, economics, sociology, anthropology, even philosophy, and that brings a lot of critical thinking. I personally come from a very practical background, and I was always involved in the administration part of the education, and the international development part of this program was really interesting to me.
One of the awesome things about being at a university that offers as much as the University of Minnesota does is, you know, there's some interests that might not be exactly to what we are able to offer in CIDE, but it's a wonderful thing to be able to, you know, walk to the next building in curriculum and instruction, or perhaps moving to walking over to the policy school and finding expertise in these different areas that, you know, as an interdisciplinary field, we're able to grab some of those classes and some of those faculty members that have expertise in those areas and can provide insight into what it is that we're interested in and focused on.
This is the University of Minnesota. This is it's a big Research One institution. So there are numerous other departments where you can go to help foster that as well. I've done a lot of my quantitative work in Ed Psych. There's qualitative work that's done, or solid qualitative work that's done in our department, but also in Ed Psych, even curriculum and instruction. There's a number of other departments you could go. And I would say even some of the underlying things, I've done quite a bit of work the philosophy department in epistemology, and some of the, I guess, really helping me to understand some of the assumptions that underline the type of knowledge claims we can make. So those opportunities at the University of Minnesota are there on top of what the department offers. And they've been really, or I've certainly had the good fortune to take advantage of many of those as well.
Because internationalization has been a priority of the university, certainly since I arrived 5 years ago, and I think even prior to that, our program gets called upon often to advise, to be part of a committee or some sort of working group. We're fully integrated into the University of Minnesota.
I wanted to work in higher education, working with international students at a higher education level. It has helped me prepare because it focuses on international exchange, international experiences, and so on. So it really helps me understand why we do the things that we do in higher education. Why are some programs set up the way they are, and who influence these programs? What are some of the theories behind them, some of the paradigms? And it really helped me see the objective and the goals of these, orientation programs, study abroad programs, internationalizing the campus, curricula, and so on. So it's been really important, and I feel like it's going to be a great skill and a great asset to have as I move on in my professional life.
These are courses that I find, I don't even say there's one that is greater than the other one or what, but all of them are really good. They are very relevant to my prospects for future professional career practice.
I think, if you're a working adult who, like me, who's working and has a young family, certainly the flexibility that comes with being in a program like ours is one that I've appreciated significantly. The opportunity to take courses in the evening and and from time to time to be able to take a course or two in the summer has been really helpful.
One thing that I have appreciated about the CIDE program as a master's student is that they let me take doctoral level classes. Actually, my very first semester in the program, I took a doctoral level seminar on international education and development. And it really gave me a nice foundation for the rest of my courses. And the students who are getting their PhDs have a much clear idea of a research area that they're interested in, and hearing their perspectives and seeing them define their research areas as we move through the program together has informed the way I think about what they're doing their research on, and the way I think about my own research.
I think what is really broad about the research and the teaching that is conducted in this department is we're not just looking at the global south or developing countries, we're also looking at developed countries that may have areas that are less developed. For example, social services, whether it's mental health and concepts of counseling and mental health might be newer or relatively foreign in some of these contexts. So I've really had the pleasure of working with my colleagues in Japan, in Korea, in China, and quite a bit in Singapore as well.
What we want to continue to bring together is research and scholarship and coursework that also looks at sites within the U.S. context. Both in terms of education in the comparative perspective, but also in terms of issues like transnational migration, some of what Dr. Ruzbeh Shirazi's work and my own work has done. And so we're looking at the U.S. as a site that's where intercultural work happens, but also is related to a much larger development agenda as well, in terms of where do we go, how do we improve education quality, the big development agenda issue, but how does that relate to the U.S. kind of context, as well as other contexts where we might work, whether that's Eastern Africa, East Asia, or other places.
I think one of our particular strengths is that we're rather agnostic in our thinking about theory and practice. It's not theory versus practice, it's not practice versus theory, but we try through our different strengths as a faculty and our different interests as faculty to ensure that our students are getting enough practical experience to understand some of the theoretical concerns that scholars who are not so engaged in fieldwork might have, but also to make sure that our students are reading critically and widely, even if not everything they read is immediately applicable. And I think that living with that tension and seeing their faculty grappling with those tensions can be extremely enlightening for graduate students. So I think that Minnesota is a place to come if you want to be in both of those worlds at the same time.
When we were presenting at a professional conference, people would notice that we were from the University of Minnesota. They would recognize us for scholarship. They would recognize our instructors. They would see when we'd hand over a business card, oh, I see you're from the University of Minnesota, and so many other presentations that they had heard as well. So the reputation of the school was something that I know transitioning into this new role has been really, really fantastic.
We're well known within the United States community and even more broadly across the world for our strong emphasis on intercultural and international education. And in more recent decades, or in the last really 2 decades, have really developed the more development side of our program.
As I've spent more time in the program, I've become more comfortable with all the things that the program has to offer, but also all the opportunities that the program has to share. I think that's been a really a great help for me. So.